Voiceover tips. Useful tips for doing voiceovers. So if you want to do voiceovers, obviously your main instrument is going to be your voice, your vocal cords, your body, all as a whole. So obviously you're going to want to take care of your voice as a voice artist. As an actor in general, you need to take care of your voice because it is one of your primary instruments for your work. Number one, find a quiet place to record in. So if you're going to record, you want to do it in a nice, quiet place where there's no other noises that'll interfere with what you're doing. You want as clean and clear and crisp a recording as you can possibly get. You don't want necessarily air conditioning blowing in the background or a fan moving or cars driving by or people walking and talking. You want to make it as quiet and centralized where it's just you and the microphone and your recording equipment. 2, acquire a good microphone and a recorder. So if you're going to record audio for voiceovers, especially commercially, you're going to want to have a decent microphone to record with. You do not want to rely on the internal microphone built into your computer or into your cell phone, smartphone, or whatever it is that you've got. Even a camera, if you have a nice DSLR camera, those microphones are not designed for great recording. They're designed to just do some basic recordings. So you're going to want to purchase an external microphone that you can plug into one of these devices. If you purchase the right kind of microphone, it will be able to plug into multiple devices, which will make it useful for you. And remember, you get what you pay for. So a cheap microphone is not necessarily going to be ideal. It may get you started, but an expensive microphone may be more ideal. Somewhere in the middle might be even better, but that's something you'll have to figure out as you go. And a recorder, you can use your computer to record, you can use a cell phone, smartphone. There are apps now designed for this. As long as you have an external microphone that you can plug into your cell phone or your smartphone or tablet, then you can use those apps to record, and it gives you a nice digital recording. Now if you're using a Bluetooth microphone like with the AirPods or earphones or any of those things, keep in mind Bluetooth is not always the best connection because it is wireless. There are things that can interfere with Bluetooth. So you don't necessarily want a Bluetooth microphone. You're going to probably want one that plugs in, preferably one that's digital as opposed to the old analog. 3, be sure to format the audio card and make adjustments. So when you set up your sound, whether you're using a computer or you're using a phone or whatever it may be, if it's a computer, it's going to have an audio card. It may be built into the computer. You may have bought an external audio card to plug in to get better quality audio. Either way, you've got to make adjustments on that computer for your microphone, for your voice, for whatever it is you're doing. Same thing on your phone. You make adjustments so that you're getting the best quality recording that you can out of your equipment. So make those adjustments. Make sure you have everything working properly. When you go to do the actual recording, don't rely on paper for everything. Paper is okay. That's the way it's been done for years. If you have a music stand, you can put the script up there on the stand. You can do it quite well that way. But you may be better off using a phone or a tablet or a computer and have the script on the screen so that you can record using that. So that here's what it'll do for you. You won't be rattling papers as you're moving the script from page to page if it's more than one page, as well as you're not tempted to pick the page up and move things around. And when you do all that, things start making noises. You rattle the paper, you tap the paper, any of those kind of things. It's going to cause noise that you don't want in the recording. So rely on a tablet or a computer, even a small phone, although the larger screen is probably better for you. 5, title it. Be sure that you are labeling what it is that you're saying, what your recording is. So if you're doing a lecture, title the lecture. It may have been given to you by whoever wrote the lecture if it wasn't you, or if it's a voiceover for a cartoon, give the name of the cartoon, the character, who you are, give the vital information so that it's easy for whoever's picking this up to identify what it is so they know what they need to do with it. Especially if you're turning it over to a company for recording purposes, they need to be able to easily identify, not just by the label of the file itself, what you name the file when you save it, but once they play the file, they can hear exactly what this is at the beginning. Read, scroll, and continue. What we're talking about here is as you're going through the script, you read through it, you scroll along, and you continue. So that when you have more than one page, if you go to the bottom of the page and you pause as you scroll or move to the next page, whether you're using paper and you're flipping the page or whatever it is you're doing, scrolling or flipping, you need to be able to do that smoothly. So what you're doing is you're reading ahead of where you are moving so that you're scrolling through, and you got to practice this so that you don't scroll and lose your place while you're scrolling. But you don't want to end up at the end of the page and then you now have to pause so that you can go to the next page. 7. Add some life to it. If you're reading a script, especially an animated cartoon, if you're doing a voiceover for that, you need to be animated. You need to add life to the written word. Okay, the dialogue of what you're recording may help with that. If it's a lecture and it's in a certain topic that maybe is not all that interesting because there's a lot of hard words or big words, or just the way it's written is very hard to really say easily, you still, as a voiceover artist, you still have to make life come out of those words. And I'm not saying that you have to make it over exaggerated and sound goofy or weird or whatever, but you need to make it sound exciting. It needs to be exciting to whoever. If you don't feel excited about your work, nobody listening is going to be excited about your work. Stand up. Don't sit and record. While you're recording, you need to practice standing while you're recording. If that means getting a music stand or a microphone stand so that you can have the microphone up high enough, by all means do that. If you need a music stand to put your script or your tablet that you're using to read off of on the music stand, by all means go ahead and do all that. But you're standing up, you're allowing yourself better airflow for oxygen through your system, and it's going to help your voice work better. Number 9, don't forget to breathe. Breathing is one of the most essential things you can do for voice and doing voiceovers. You need to learn to breathe from the diaphragm and not from the mouth. Otherwise, you're going to risk hurting your throat. So whether you're doing a character voice or you're just doing a straight standard voice, you need to learn to breathe and breathe correctly. So that means breathing from the diaphragm, going out, and also learning to take breaths when you need them, not to hold your breath or try to get through a sentence just because you got enough air in you. Make sure you're breathing properly and through the diaphragm. Number 10, be energetic, animated, and enthusiastic. So when you're doing a reading for a voiceover, you need to be energetic. It doesn't matter what the content is. The content can be extremely boring. You've got to make it sound as interesting as possible. Not overdoing it, but you want it to sound interesting. Because if you don't make it sound interesting, the audience listening to you are not going to be interested in it. So if you can't make it energetic, make it animated, make it enthusiastic, it's not going to seem that way to the audience and they're just going to turn off. So be energetic. And that doesn't mean going overboard. That just means put a little life to the project. That also means that if this is an animated cartoon, and there's a character involved, that character needs to be appropriately animated, meaning based on the content of the script and what direction you've been given for that character. Number 11, don't split your sentences. So when you're reading, you want to read all the way through. You don't want to stop in the middle of a sentence and have a pause there. You want it to sound like it's one long continuous thought, because that may be. Hopefully what you're reading is not one long expanded sentence, but sometimes that could be the way it is. But again, read it through so that you don't have to stop in the middle of a sentence and have that awkward pause. Number 12, don't slur your words together. Be articulate, be clear, and make sure that the words coming out are clear and precise the way they should be. Don't slur two words together and sound like you're from some weird country or some accent that you have. Unless an accent is called for, don't use an accent. Number 13, pronounce words clearly. This goes along with number 12. You need to be clear on what's being said. If you're not sure how to pronounce a word, look it up, Google it. If you Google it, there are translators who even say it for you so that you can hear it how it sounds as opposed to just spelling it out phonetically. But look it up, find out exactly how to say, especially if it's something like a foreign language, you want to make sure it's said properly. Number 14, take a break vocally. Every so often you need to rest your voice. If you're recording for an hour, 2 hours at a time, take a break every 30 minutes or so just to rest your voice. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water and that you're resting the vocal cords, not talking to other people, whatever you need to do to keep that rested. Number 15, drink some water. You need a glass of water or a bottle of water or something with water in it that you can drink while you're working. Not while you're talking, but in between when you're taking a break, get some water. Keep yourself hydrated. It's important that you stay hydrated, and it's important that you're hydrating your lips and your throat and your whole inside so that everything is running smoothly and you don't have a dry mouth or dry lips causing problems with what you're trying to say and how you're trying to say it. Number 16, keep the microphone within 5 to 7 inches. So when you're recording, try to keep that microphone within 5 to 7 inches of your mouth so that you get good quality sound going straight into the mic. If you go too far back, you may not have enough volume. You get too close, it may start sounding distorted. A lot of hissing and a lot of popping and such. If you need to, use a pop filter, but definitely keep it within 5 to 7 inches. That's the golden area, so to speak. Number 17, when repeating, leave a space. So if you're recording, you're going along, everything's fine, and then you screw up or something happens, pause, then repeat what you just said and keep going. But make sure there's a pause in there, because as the editor is looking at this screen, they're looking at a screen that shows them everything that's been recorded. So if you don't stop and start a new recording, start over, then you need to have a pause in there, and it has to be long enough so that if I'm looking at a 10-minute clip, I can see where there's a pause so that I know to go in there and adjust this, cut out what needs to be cut out, and take out the pause so that we make it sound continuous. Number 18, use a good pacing throughout. So as you're moving along, you're doing a recording. If this is going to be something that's really long, make sure you pace it so that it's not going to drag on forever and ever and ever. You want it to have a good pacing all throughout so that it's not too fast, so people can't understand what's being said if it's going too fast. But you don't want it so slow that everything is dragging. Find a good pace and keep that pace. The more you record your voice, the more you'll get used to what sounds like a good pacing. Number 19, pause so they can do the thing. So if you're reading something that requires the audience to participate, for instance, if you're doing something like an experiment and you have the audience working that experiment along with you, You need to pause while they do whatever it is you're asking them to do. Preheat the oven to 240 degrees. Pause for that to happen, and then come back to the next step. So give them a little bit of time so that they can do whatever it is they need to do. If you need to pantomime this, pantomime it, whatever you got to do to learn how to correctly pause for that. Number 20, frustration will come through. If you are frustrated and you're recording and you're still frustrated while you're recording, that frustration will come out in the recording. So we will know as an audience, this person's mad about something. And if it's not supposed to be something we're mad about, it shouldn't be there. So if you get frustrated while recording, stop, pause, collect yourself, come back when you're not as frustrated. 21, warm up your voice. It's always good to do a vocal warm-up before you start using your voice. There are many of these. You can look them all up. Tongue twisters are the most popular things. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, something along those lines. Repeat it, speed it up, slow it down, say it several ways, working your voice before you start recording. This will get you limber and make it easier to say things and have fewer mistakes. Number 22, practice sight reading. As an actor, whether it's voiceover or a stage actor or a film actor, learning to sight read is one of the best things you can do. Because basically what you're doing is you're reading ahead of what you're saying. It sounds like a weird thing, but it does work. So as an actor, I'm always ahead of where I'm at so that I know what's coming. So the more you can practice reading, if that means getting out and auditioning as much as you can, whatever it takes, practice reading out loud with other people. Number 23, practice, practice, practice. The more you practice doing voiceovers, the better you're going to get at it. And if you have somebody that can critique it, a director or somebody who knows something about voice that can listen to these and tell you what you need to do to adjust, then listen to their advice.